These are some of the 10 clever electrical tools that you as a homeowner or DIYer need to know about. In this bag is our first item. If I unzip this here, you'll find a circuit tracer. Now, this thing is super powerful. If you've ever had an experience where you're not sure where the other end of a line is or what's connected to what at two different areas in the house, this can help you with that. You've got a transmitter and a receiver. I'm going to power them both on. We start to get a little test tone right away. Okay, you can hear that test tone. Let's say I've got two sets of Romex running near each other, and I need to know which one goes to which one on the other end. I'm going to use my little alligator clip here. I'll connect this to the ground. And then as I use the probe here, I can test on this other one that doesn't have anything connected to it. I'm not getting any signal, but as soon as I get to the ground that has it connected to it, I got a green light and a sound. Now I can use the buttons here to turn that volume up or turn it down. I can change the test tone and what that looks like. I can also check not only for continuity, but for polarity as well. If I need to figure out what's positive and what's negative on these, that's an option. And lastly, you can even check for your telephone or Ethernet cables, your RJ11 or RJ45 cables with this guy right here. The wire tracing kit here costs about $90, and yes, that's one of the more expensive, in fact, I think the most expensive thing I'll show you today, but think about how much it costs to have an electrician to come out. Typically, they have a minimum visit charge of about $150 to $200 just to see you. So at 90 bucks, this could save you quite a bit. Next up is this unassuming little guy here. This has become one of my favorite tools to use, especially when I'm doing rough-in electrical work. This one has two features that make it so much more useful. The main one is that when you're using this to take the jacket off some Romex cable, like you see here, you just run that little hook on the inside up through the sheathing, but then as you are removing the material, you can actually use the blade that's on the back of it here up towards where the hook is to just cut that all off deep inside the box. Not only that, but the second thing I really like about this is it has a magnet on the back here. So while you're working, you can stick this on a nail on the stud, you can stick it on anything that's magnetic in any way, which is really nice. But it also has the ability to help you work as like a wrench basically for wire nuts right here. It has a 12 gauge and a 14 gauge wire stripper on it, and it has a hook here for bending shepherd's hooks into your Romex cable or wiring that's 12 or 14 gauge. The Klein 5-in-1 cost about $15. Next up is this beauty inside this little hard shell case here. Now there are two versions of this. I'm going to show you both, but I definitely prefer this one here. This is a wire puller. So basically we've got a very sturdy wire right here that has a magnet inside here, and this is for pulling wires behind your walls. In fact, you can see here where I was using this to try to pull a new wire to a new outlet inside insulated walls in our bedroom. If you've got insulation, for example, it's really difficult to push wire or feed wire through, and gravity's not going to do much good for you. And even if you don't have insulation, a lot of times the wire tends to get stuck on things or caught, and that's where these guys come in and really make the job so much easier. The way it works is you drill a hole in the studs, either underneath or on the top, and then you feed this into the wall with your wires connected to the hook on the end here. And then once you've got that in, you've got the matching roller wheel here that's another strong magnet that attaches to this guy. Now, these are powerful. Check this out. Woo! These really want to stick together and be near each other, and they're difficult to pull apart. But the reason this has little soft rubber wheels on here is you can rub this up and down the wall till it actually snags onto this, and then you can actually take this with you from outside the wall. It's kind of like magic. So in my case, like you can see here, I'm running it down the wall and pulling that cable with it because it has that much power on the magnet until I reach the cutout that I had made and then pull the whole thing through, and I'm ready to run my electrical at that point. This thing cost about $60. Now the alternative to this one, for about $10 less, you can get this little guy here. Does the same kind of thing, but it's bigger in the actual holes that you have to drill through it, which I don't like. So you've got this little magnet that you use on the outside along the wall where you're trying to push the direction of the wire, but you have to drop this guy down into it, and that's pretty big. This thing's probably 1 1/8 inches, and that means you have to drill a pretty big hole through your studs to drop that down or to feed that up, which I don't think is ideal. On the other one that cost about $10 more, you're only having to drill a hole maybe 5/8 of an inch to drop that down. So I definitely prefer that. Next, another one I've shown on this channel quite a few times because it is so useful and so handy. This is the Klein #1 and #2 square drive insulated driver. This thing is ideal for just about everything electrical. The two different tips that come with this, you've got the number 1 Robertson or square drive, and then you flip it over and you've got the number 2. Now, as you can tell by the orange on here, this is insulated up to 1,000 volts, which is going to help keep you safe in case you end up working on something that you thought was de-energized but is actually live. And you should work like everything's live anyway, so keep that in mind. But with this one, you can use the number 2 for working in service panels and circuit breakers, and then you can use the number 1 for just about everything in, at least in the American versions of outlets and light switches and things of that nature. They almost always have a Phillips, a slotted, and a square drive, but I've found that the square drive is my go-to for all of these because it has less of a tendency to slip. It's easier to just find your way in there, and it just gives you great torque to be able to tighten down or loosen screws when you're working on outlets or switches. Next up, let's talk safety and how you can stay safe all the time. I mentioned that this one has up to a 1,000 volt rating on it with its insulated driver. Well, there's a lot of other things you can do to stay extra safe, including gloves that are also rated up to 1,000 volts, like these guys here. These cost about 13 bucks, and they've got a thick rubber coating, and they're rated to keep you safe up to that 1,000 volts, in addition to whatever you're using as far as insulated drivers. Here's another couple tools that I love. These are called the Volt Claw set. They're all insulated in plastic here, so you can actually push wires around inside your junction boxes. You can pull wires inside your junction boxes. You can twist wires inside your junction boxes with this end here. And it's even got a little wire nut wrench here for tightening your wire nuts. This kit together, $26 for both of these. And then lastly, I've got a few sets here of insulated 1,000 volt rated screwdrivers. I've got this Milwaukee set that I use on a regular basis. And then I've got some from Doyle. These are sold at Harbor Freight, and they're pretty inexpensive to go with. And I've even got a set from Viha. These are German made, really well crafted, and also insulated and ready to go. And usually these come in ECX, like you see that I've got here. So this is an ECX bit with the kind of combination of Phillips and slotted. And then you can usually get Phillips, slotted, and square drive as well. All perfect for working with electrical. Next up, for about 10 bucks, you can pick yourself up a set of these plates. These are wall outlet spacers. And these have one specific function really, that is to straighten out and align your outlets or your switches so that they're flush with the outside wall. We've all seen outlets and switches that are kind of recessed into the wall and the wall plate doesn't quite fit on it. So with these, they actually are C-shaped. So you can take the C shape here, slide it over, and then thread your screws through this plate here, and it gives you a whole lot more to grab onto, and usually is going to find some purchase on the drywall itself or whatever the paneling is that you're using. The reason they're C-shaped like this is because you can take a couple of these. If you've got that same issue on a 2-gang or a double-gang box, you can put them side by side like this as well, and that'll make it even easier to get both of them. So you can do as many of these as you need to. Next up, another one that I love to talk about because they're so handy, and I don't know why people aren't using these more, are the universal wire strippers. These guys are so clever and they make life so much easier rather than trying to use your traditional wire strippers and say, okay, is this a 12 gauge or is this a 14 gauge? And also, which one of those holes is 12 gauge for solid wire versus 12 gauge for stranded wire, etc., etc. Who cares? Just grab one of these and it's going to strip the wire no matter what the gauge is, whether it's stranded or solid, and it's going to do a good job of it. So these ones are a Klein option, and there are tons of brands out there that make these. This is a metal separator kind, so it kind of grabs down and then pulls the wire apart and separates out the end piece that you want to strip off from the rest of the cable sheathing. But this is my favorite right here. This is the Knipex universal wire stripper. Definitely more expensive, definitely not something for everybody. These are about $48 to $50, so they cost quite a bit, but they work so well. You've got your little depth stop in here, which is really easy to use. You just adjust that, push the wire up against it, and squeeze the trigger, and that's it. There are some kind of knockoff ones, or less expensive ones at least, like these ones by Wacom. These ones cost maybe about $25, and then of course Harbor Freight comes along and has almost the exact thing here. I wonder where they got this idea from, I can't tell. These ones I think are about $8 at Harbor Freight, but still a great option because it's that trigger style, kind of looks like a little alligator mouth. You've got your depth stop, and they just do a great job. Next is another fan favorite. You guys seem to love this tool. I get comments about it all the time, and there's a lot of these that are getting purchased because they work so well. This is the Klein Tools Circuit Breaker Finder. Now again, two parts here. We've got a transmitter and a receiver. And the transmitter plugs into an outlet or a receptacle, and the receiver goes into the circuit breaker box and will tell you which circuit breaker is powering whatever is on the other end. And if you have a circuit breaker panel that looks like the average American circuit breaker panel that's just a mess with chicken scratch and poorly labeled, this can help you get that all straightened out. Now, I highly recommend getting the kit that comes along with this, because with that, you can use all of these things. So I've got this, I can actually detect bare wires. So if you're working on an outlet or something, you've already taken it apart, but you want to verify that you're on the right circuit, just plug this guy in here like so, and then you can connect these to the bare wires to make sure you've got that right. Same thing with the actual outlet up on the ceiling, so you can plug one of these guys in here and then feed that in, and that will allow you to be able to just plug this into a light socket and see what circuit breaker is powering that. The circuit breaker finder by itself typically runs about $50, and then you can get it with the kit, which I highly recommend, that has everything that you need with it for lights, for bare wires, and for outlets, and that cost about $70. Next up are the installer drill bits. These are super useful for when you're working in a common scenario, which is that you don't actually have to run it through one single stud bay, a new wire for example. You're having to cross multiple studs and multiple stud bays to fish wire through. The way these work is pretty simple. If I have to go across multiple studs like I do in this ceiling project where I'm installing new light fixtures, I'm going to put 4 light fixtures where there was just 1. With this, I'll just cut a hole in the ceiling, and then optionally you can use the guide that Klein Tools provides. This one costs a little bit more again, but it is super handy for not overbending. And then you can actually just push that drill bit through the studs and then guide it one stud after another through as many of those as you need to. One of my favorite parts is that at the tip of the drill bit there is a hole, so you can actually attach your Romex wiring to that, tape it up so it's as smooth as can be, and then pull it back through the holes that you just created. Number 10 on our list is probably the most versatile and useful tool of all of the things that we've shown today, especially when you're doing electrical work, and that is the multimeter. Now the multimeter has so many different things it can do. These ones here, for example, these will handle all kinds of things, including reading your voltage, of course, reading polarity. They can help you understand what the temperature of different things are, and they have tons of different ranges. They work on DC, they work on AC. This is my favorite one here. This one's a little expensive. It's about $100, but I love it for a bunch of reasons. Number one, I've got my kickstand on the back here. I'll just set that kickstand up, let the machine stand on its own, and then go about doing my testing with whatever I need to do without having to have this in my hand. It's also got your holders on the back here for being able to just drop one of these in, and so I can use it to hold one thing and push that probe up against one wire and then touch another one, like my neutral or my ground, for example, and that makes it really easy. And one of the other things I love about this one is you can see voltage here is actually just volts. It's not different ranges that I have to worry about. This is all automatic on this volt reading here. One of the other more recent purchases I got was the clamp meter here. And the reason I like the clamp meter is it's very similar and can do just about everything that my multimeter can do, but I don't actually even need the probes in some cases. So I can actually just open this up, put it around a live wire, and it will tell me what the amperage of that wire is, and let me double check that really quickly. So this replaces several different tools, this guy here, because I can check voltage, I can check amperage up to higher rates, and I can also use it to replace a circuit tester like this, an outlet tester. And it'll tell me what the voltage is, tell me what everything I need to know. It's all right here on this little clamp meter. So a super handy tool. This one runs about $130, so it is a little pricey, but it's a one tool to rule them all kind of situation for multimeters and measuring anything electronic as far as signals go. Just as a reminder, you can find our Amazon shopping page using this QR code here or checking the links in the description below, and that's where I've put links to all of these tools so you don't have to spend any time looking for them. You can find them all in one place, add them to your cart, get whatever you need, learn more about them, read my notes on them, it's all there. Very easy for you. And then also down below you'll find links to our merch and everything if you want to get yourself a funny little DIY shirt like this one. Now you can't really have a top 10 without a few bonus features, right? So I'm going to show you 5 really quick little ones that I think are just worth noting, and a lot of people just don't know about these. First is the blind mark set. But when you're installing new outlets or receptacles or light switches, then all you have to do is you pop one of these out, put it into the screw holes in your junction box, and then put your drywall up. Then you grab this guy, and it clips into place on the outside and finds it and centers it exactly so that you can cut it out. When I'm doing that, I've got it marked out, but to make life even easier is my second tool. These are for the oscillating multi-tools. I can take this little guy with all the teeth blades around it, hook it up to my oscillating multi-tool, and then just cut a perfect drywall hole out in the exact square shape of the outlet or junction box. I've also got a 2-gang box one here that I can use. Same thing, just hook it up and cut out whatever you need to cut out. Another funny little guy is this one here. This one is for cutting your armored or shielded cables, and they are difficult to work with. There are ways that you can do this with a pair of diagonal cutters or dikes, but I prefer this guy because it's so much easier. Basically, it's got a tiny little saw blade right inside here, and that saw blade will cut right through the outside metal housing of these armored cables. So you just clamp the armored cable into the channel here, squeeze the trigger to hold it in place, and then rotate this a few times to get your cut. That's going to separate just enough so that you can twist it off and pull it apart, cut your wires, and you're good to go. Next bonus tool is our handy dandy little non-contact voltage tester. There are lots of these. I try to always go with a brand name one that's quality, and I always make sure to test it before I use it. Because with this, if there's any voltage going through something, you just hold it up, it'll let you know. If it's dead, it'll let you know. This is a great way to test really quick and make sure that everything's in good shape before you start working on any electrical outlets or fixtures or wiring. And last but not least, for my bonus items are the Leviton Edge series. I always recommend these to DIYers, especially if you're not super comfortable with trying to get the perfect shepherd's hook and the right amount of wire stripped and all of that kind of thing. These make it so easy. With these, all you need to do is use the strip gauge to see exactly how much to strip, and then from there, just lift the little levers, pop your wires into the back, snap your levers down, and you're done. You don't actually have anything exposed when you're all done with this, so there's nothing to touch, nothing to cause a short or a fault, and it's just super easy to work with. Another thing I love about these is they make it so that it's just as easy to remove your wires as it was to install them, and you still end up with a nice straight wire without a bunch of bends and without a bunch of wriggling to try to get those things out. Just lift your lever, pull the wire back out, and you're done. They have just about every variety or type that you might need, and they are absolutely simple to work with. If you want to avoid some of the biggest mistakes DIYers tend to make when doing their own electrical, check out this video here. I'm Nils with Learn to DIY. Thanks for watching.